Hello guys, MC the Miniature Surgeon here, real life surgeon with a passion for all things Warhammer, and today I want to talk to you about the range of paints made by Games Workshop, because boy oh boy the range is getting broader and broader by the year. And if you're like me and didn't really know what the practical differences were between a base and a layer paint when you started out, then this video is for you. Or if you didn't know and found something new here, maybe drop us a like and subscribe. So without further ado, here are 5 tips GW didn't tell you before you bought your first pot of paint. Enjoy. First tip is for GW's base paints. Now if you're like me and ever got a pot of base paint gunked up into a heavily pigmented ball surrounded by what looks like sweat coming out of it, now you know how frustrating it is to try to get it to actually work. Now even more frustrating is if you get back to your local GW shop and get a fresh new pot just to find out that the gunk gods and sweat lords have been working overtime. So here's a simple way to remedy the issue. Pick out your gunky pot of paint and add around 3 to 4 mils of lamy and medium into it, depending on how hard at work Nurgle was on your particular pot. Now add a screw into the pot. Now this could be a nut, a screw, a ball bearing, anything as long as it's stainless steel and heavy. Now give your pot a good hard shake for about a minute, and then turn it by 90 degrees and give it another good hard shake for 2 minutes. And there we are. Nurgle is purged and you're left with a pot that can actually use. If you've ever watched any of GW's tutorials, you know they will oftentimes recommend you to use their dry paints dedicated for dry brushing. Well, tip number 2 today is to tell you don't go wasting your money on that stuff. Dry paints are basically just paints with a higher pigment content that theoretically translates better to your model when you dry brush it. Now, do you know what other GW paint also has a high pigment content that can also use for other stuff? Base paints. For example, oftentimes you'll see GW videos recommend you to use Tyrant Skull to dry brush their terrain. What you can do is just find the next base paint that has the most similar color, so in this case, Wraith works absolutely fine. So for demonstration purposes, I have base coated Astro Granite Terrain Paste on this particular mini, and I'll quickly go over it with a dry brush of Wraithbone to show you the effect. Looks completely fine to me. Layer paints are special in the sense that they're slightly transparent when compared to base paints. Now this is actually pretty handy since it allows you more control when layering on a lighter color onto a base coat. But tip number 3 today is a still special rule I keep in mind. If I ever need to create a wash matching a specific color of a layer paint, I use one brushful of the layer paint with 2 equal brushfuls of water or lamy medium. In this example, I want to create a brownish wash for my Blood Angel Intercessor to line the panels. So what I do, I add 1 brushful of Doombull brown and 2 brushes of water, being careful to make sure the brushfuls are roughly the same. And with that done, I'm going to apply the wash into the recessed details. Now for making a glaze to match your layer color, use 1 brushful of layer paint with 3 brushfuls of water or medium to create the glaze of your choice. Just make sure it's nice and well mixed to make sure the pigment is homogeneous to create that smooth finish that you need for any glaze to work. Now in this example, I'm going to create a glaze of Evils in Scarlet and Wild Rider Red to glaze the top portions of the greave of my Intercessor to give it a gradient effect to reflect how it would be in light. The Indomitus box set out recently, everyone is scrambling to get their models on the table. But can you afford 30 minutes to an hour just to get the lenses right for your average Marine? Here's a quick tip on how to do it and get it done nicely. With the Blood Angel Intercessor I used in the previous example, I will quickly layer on some Runefang steel onto the recess of the lenses, and give it a second coat if I need to. Once that is settled, pick your contrast paint of choice and mix in the water in a ratio of 1:1. Now ever so carefully, just drop that contrast paint into the eye socket and watch the contrast paint naturally distribute itself to leave a central silvery area that mimics the illusion of a glow. For added effects for characters, you can even give it a dot of Runefang steel followed by a quick coat of Art Coat to seal the effect. GW has a range of different terrain paints and most are quite straightforward to use, but one that's quite elusive are the Crackle Paint series. Now the biggest tip for using the Crackle Paints is remember never go cheap on it. The thicker it is, the bigger the cracks are going to be, and simply the more impressive the end effect. But another cool effect that it brings is it actually pulls away very cleanly to reveal the base. So here's a cool effect you can do for your Necrons from your Indomitus box set. go ahead and coat your base with Wraith Bone, and now with a mixture of Warp, Lightning, Glow, mix 1-to-1 with water, just go over lightly and randomly to create random patterns. Now once the first layer is dry, add another coat and do it again. Then with Creed Camo undiluted, go ahead and dab randomly onto the bases to give it more variation. Once that is dry, give the base a very healthy smattering of Mordant Earth and leave it to dry. Optional step is to dry brush your base with Cabalite Green so the edges will catch the glow from the ominous crust of this Necron Tomb World. Guys, thank you so much for joining in today. If you found out about something that you didn't already know, maybe drop us a like or even subscribe. If you think that there's a tip that I missed, go ahead and leave in the comment section and maybe I can give it a try in my next video. This is MC the Miniature Surgeon, signing out.